Hello and welcome to the Lose Weight, Feel Great Summit. I'm your host, Joanna Peterson, and I'm thrilled and honored to have with us today Martha Reed. Welcome.
Thank you.
Martha Reed is an alternative counselor. She is a metaphysicist, hypnotherapist, color therapist, and so much more. Can you tell us a little bit more about you, Martha?
Yeah, yes, I am a metaphysician, and a metaphysician is somebody who doesn't deal with medicine, not naturopathic nor allopathic. It's actually the study of that which can't be seen. So the study of energy, the study of how that works with us and our energy body. And as a spiritual counselor, I help people overcome obstacles, old patterns, old beliefs, and things like that. Mostly I work with the mindset, and we use energy, I'm making up a new word here, energy as our medicine. And so I help people seek deep within themselves and give them answers and advice.
What motivated you to get in this field?
I've always had what's called the gift of knowing, which means that I can just have answers to things in my head for people or things that are going on that just I shouldn't have, even as a small child. And as a child, my father had some serious injuries, physical injuries, a broken back, things like that, and was on a lot of pain medication. So I started looking for alternatives to what else could be out there besides just pain pills and surgeries, things like that. So I did it mostly to help my family and to hopefully never be someone that had to, undergo some of those things.
Wonderful. So help your family and help thousands of other people by doing
Yes.
what you're doing.
Yes.
And
I also saw the power of the mindset and how our belief systems affected our outcomes.
Do you mostly work with women or just anyone?
I work with anyone, but it appears that mostly women are drawn to me. I would say 90% of my clientele are women.
Wonderful. And how are you helping them break free and break through?
Well, I have a lot of, as you mentioned, there's a lot of modalities in my toolbox. And if we're looking at a person from a whole person perspective, we're looking at them to look at which one of their elements might be contributing to them not meeting their goals. So if a person's mindset is telling them that, they're not successful, they're not going to be able to meet their goals, they've never done that in the past, they are not capable, they don't have the strength, they don't have the willpower, whatever it might be, I call them excuses and reasons. And we look at each one of those things and we see what area that they are struggling the most in. Is it their mindset, as in old patterns, or is it just a belief system? And with that, we decide which modality would work best. If we're dealing a lot with the mindset, the belief system, then oftentimes my go-to is hypnotherapy, because we can access the subconscious mind that stores all of those old belief systems. And if it's something that's maybe handed down to us, and it is something that's basically in our cellular imprint, that it might be a pattern or a belief, but it's on a different level. It's not just something that we've created in this lifetime. It's something that's been handed down through generations, such as our ancestry, our mother, our father, our grandparents. If that's the case, then I will work with homeopathic remedies to help the cellular imprint that is contributing to our current belief systems in this lifetime.
That's so exciting. It's just, and can you explain to the audience a little bit what is hypnotherapy?
Hypnotherapy, so oftentimes people think about hypnosis as a scary thing, or mind control, or as something that we should not do because it's scary and we might get lost in it and never come back. But that's simply not the truth. our subconscious mind, there's two parts of us. We have our physical machine that we're here with and our spiritual body. Those two come together and as a dual reality that creates us and helps us, function in this life. Some often refer to that as the conscious mind or the subconscious mind, but that is kind of separate between those two beings as well. So our conscious mind is the mind that's here and present, and right now talking and having a conversation between you and I. We are consciously aware of everything that's happening around us. Subconsciously, though, we have a stored memory bank that holds everything we've ever been through and everything that we've ever felt through, and it stores it to help us know what to expect or how to act going forward. And sometimes what's in there does not serve us at all. A lot of things in there do serve us, like, look both ways and, check if you hear a bus coming, check to see if it's there or step out of the way. Like, it nudges us to make right action. But when it gets stuck or traumatized or does something that doesn't work for us, this is where hypnosis comes into play. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So if you think about that sleepy time right before you wake up in the morning, or that kind of drowsy moment right when you wake up in the morning, that sleepy time right before you fall asleep, and then the drowsy time right before you wake up, both of those times are hypnosis. Our body goes into this time. It's an in-between time between us being asleep and us being awake. And it's kind of like daydreaming, but it's that drifting point. That's self-hypnosis. So every person can be hypnotized unless they have a mental illness that doesn't allow them to focus, such as autism or Down syndrome. There's something that keeps them from being able to stay focused very long or think during those times. But other than that, the more intelligent a person is, the easier they are to be hypnotized. And most people think it's just the opposite, that only those that are not very smart are able to be hypnotized. Just isn't true. And so that hypnosis basically allows us to go into that time and where our memories are being stored. So if we're consciously present and we're absorbing everything now, where does it go for later use? That's into the subconscious. So through hypnotherapy, we deal with the subconscious mind, and we help it to basically see things differently, believe things differently, and in that time, it becomes a new memory or a new imprint that we can access in the future to help us. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Okay, good.
So when you have a new client and someone is looking to get help from you, especially if it's weight or whatever their mindset is, what is the first approach usually that you use to help them?
I do a what's called we call it an initial visit, where we sit down and we have a conversation, and people tell me where they're at, what they're looking for. They tell me what they want more of in life, what they want less of, and from there we begin our approach. And it could be spiritual counseling, it could be somebody or life coaching. It could be that they just need help moving forward, and what next right action is needed to take that step. Whether it's your summit here is on weight loss. So if we're dealing with somebody with weight loss, we're looking at them and saying, are we just in poor habits? Do we need guidance? Do we know which direction? Do we need to make a plan of what's the next right action? Or is there something in there that they're like, oh my gosh, I do this over and over and over and I just can't seem to stop? And oftentimes we find through that journey that it's not actually what's happening now, it's old beliefs or patterns. And it also could be that they're in an environment that's just not conductive to what they're trying to do. And so then if that's the case, then we're going to examine some colors. We're going to look at different things that might help them in the present, while we're simultaneously looking at letting go of the past and bringing in the future. So it all just depends on where they're at. So each person is a unique experience.
So when you're saying color, are you talking about the chakras, or are you doing just color therapy where you're bringing on different colors to help them, or?
It can be both or any of all of those things. So to me, color is a very powerful modality, and color, it's all around us and it's affecting us always. It's the color is in each, like as in the light and energy color, like what's in the sky, reds or blues. Those have the exact same frequency as notes or sound notes. So frequency of color and sound affect us on many levels. One of them is our chakra system. So our chakra system has many colors in it. There are 7 main ones. There are more than that in the body, but there are 7 main ones, and each one of those resonates to a particular color, and also a time frame in their life. So if you're not familiar with the chakras, the listeners that are out there, they start out at the root of the tailbone and move up to right below the belly button, right at the belly button, right in the center of the chest, one right in the middle of the throat, one in the third eye, the crown above the head. And they are just like the rainbow. They start out with the fire colors or the rising colors with red and then orange and then yellow right at the belly button. And then they go to heart, which is green, which is kind of like our midpoint. It's kind of the center of our being. In the heart itself is the center of all things. And then they begun to move into the setting colors, or like the night sky, the cool colors, the watercolors, where it goes blue, a deeper indigo blue, and then purple, and then up to white. So just like the sun rises, the sun sets. So we have hot and cold colors within us. And these colors and time frames help us to identify things that are working for us emotionally or not. So for instance, if we were dealing with our root chakra, which is red and sits right below our tailbone, and that was actually learning its lessons in life between birth and 7 years old, and it vibrates to the color red, we would look at some of the emotions a person was telling me about. They don't feel safe. They don't feel secure. Maybe they don't have any, they don't feel very powerful. They don't feel grounded. There's something that's just making them feel financially insecure, or they're just, just not feeling very secure. That's just the word that's coming to me right now. And if that's the case, we would look at, we would know that those feelings are associated with the color red, a disempowered red. On the opposite side, if a person is telling me, I'm angry, I'm, just hot-headed, or I'm just, overly aggressive, and they're not passionate, but they're maybe dictatorial. There's that sense of fury that's in them, and they're just not happy and getting what they want. That's a very hot side of red, which is just very intense. There's way too much red in their world energy. And knowing that a lot of those emotions or feelings can be associated to the first portion of their life, birth till the age of 7, we would just look at what was maybe going on with their mother during pregnancy, or their father. What was going on in their life that made them feel like they had no control, that they had no voice, or they had no they didn't feel safe or secure in their environment. And now all these colors are active and alive at all times. So it's not just that it has to be in that time frame of birth till 7. It just means that energy and those emotions could be, but is always active at all times. By the time, we're 49 to 55, we're starting to look at retirement. We're back into the root chakra, and we're saying, hey, do I feel financially safe? Am I going to be okay to retire? Or am I just going to walk off and quit this job? Whatever it might be. So it's not like they're not always present, but there are different time frames in our life, depending on our age, that we would just look at and see if there's an old pattern or belief that we could shift. So colors, and if that were the case, a person who has a disempowered red, not very much red in their life, we're talking about not feeling safe or secure, that person, I would invite them to bring red into their life. We want more red. We want to feel more secure and more stable and in control. And at that point, we would have them be bringing in red, whether it's in their foods or their clothing or their environment. But if they're that person who is angry and enraged, and you can just see them, they just are easily set off. There's too much fire going on in that person, too much red. So if that's the case, then we think of the color wheel. And on that wheel, there's always a balancing color or an opposing color. But in the energy field or in the energy work of color, we would look at the opposite of that as a neutralizer, basically, or another aspect. So the opposite on the color wheel of red is green. So if you think about the color green being our heart center, it's all about peace and calm and love and connection and unity and just that feeling that everything is going to be okay. So a person who's in that fiery red doesn't feel any of those feelings. So if that were the case, we would have them bring in greens into their world, whether they're changing the monitor on their screen, using a green pen, buying a green plant. We would be doing things to help calm them, their nervous system down. So bringing them out of that too much red by diluting it with the green to bring it back to a more peaceful state. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Also, when we carry so much anger and that dense energy, naturally, it's like carrying a U-Haul, carrying this huge bag that's sitting on us. And it's also much harder on our immune system. It's harder on our digestion. It's much harder to shed weight too, because you're carrying constantly all this heaviness with you.
Yes.
So
very heavy.
Yeah, energetically and physically. So when you're doing the kind of work that you're doing with it, you're shedding all that and you're becoming lighter. And naturally, when we're clearing, we feel lighter, we get lighter. Yeah,
that's right. And speaking of that, they can take different shades of red, and which one makes me feel heavier and which one makes me feel lighter. So even shades vary within colors, but it's all about exactly what you're talking about. What makes me feel better? What makes me feel not so better, right? Worse, not so good, right? So, yeah.
Do you dress with different colors? Depends on your emotions and how you feel?
Me personally, absolutely, I do. And I did write quite a bit of this in my latest book called Dragonfly Insights. It's called Color Conscious Choosing. So each day when you wake up in the morning and you're saying to yourself, I don't feel very well today. I don't feel, as good as I'd like to feel. We want to bring in a color that actually will help bring us up, make us feel better, not make us feel better. Take that, I'm going to change that word to help us to feel better, because these are tools, energetic tools. So when I wake up in the morning, I'll know, like, let's say I have, I'm a person who has a job interview, and instead of being 100% excited and in joy of this going to this interview, I'm a nervous wreck. I just can't function. I can't think. I'm so excited that I want it, that it makes me completely nervous and into anxiety versus excitement. So when I wake up in the morning, I know that that's an intense energy. It's too much. I'm not calm at all. So most likely it's in the fire family and there's a nervousness about it. So I'm going to choose a watercolor, something that's going to help bring me into a different mindset. Or feeling. So if it's blue and I want to communicate better, I want to communicate softer, or I know this is all about communication, I might bring in a lighter blue, a turquoise, something like that works here in the throat chakra. Or I'm going to pull something that's going to be in the purple realm, or a deep indigo blue, something that's going to make me feel a little softer. Or if I'm not feeling very courageous and I'm not feeling, very secure in this, I would also pull in some red, because red's going to make us feel safe and secure. So depending on which emotion it would be, I would look to those colors. And sometimes, if I'm not even sure what it is, I will take colors. I'll hold them over my eyes, like let's say it's blue or purple or whatever. I would hold it up and look through the light, and I'd say, how does this make me feel? Does it make me feel the way I want to feel today? Or does this make me feel the opposite? Or could it just be neutral and not doing anything today? So sometimes when I'm unsure, I'll check that way as well.
Beautiful. What is the dragonfly effect?
So the dragonfly is an interesting story. So when I was, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, trying to decide how I was going to restructure my business, I couldn't figure it out, because as you see, I do a lot of modalities, and I couldn't figure out what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, because there was so much stuff. It was like, wow, craziness everywhere. And I couldn't really fine tune it. And, you know, they're saying brand yourself. I was like, I don't know how to, I couldn't figure it out. Well, I started having these visions, and in those visions, and this was during dream time, so while I was sleeping, the dragonfly would come in and it would visit me. It started out by coming and just like looking at me, and then it would fly off. And then it became more and more, the more dreams I had of this, excuse me, of this dragonfly. And one night it came to me, and it started showing me it was flying over these mountains and rivers and going through these small places and flying. And it was as if I was behind it, watching it. I was on this journey with it. And then it began to speak to me, and it told me that a dragonfly has 4 wings, and if each and every one of its wings are in perfect calibration and functioning perfectly, it can fly in any direction that it chooses, and it can fly with ease and grace, and it can get to where it wants to go just as easy. But if one of its wings are slightly out of balance or out of calibration, it can get to where it wants to go. But it's not going to get there with ease and grace, and it's not going to get there without struggle. And if one of those wings is completely missing or broken, that it may get to where it wants to go, but most likely it'll just spin in circles, going nowhere. And if it does get to where it wants to go, it's not going to get there without struggle and without the assistance of someone. So it's going to become codependent, dependent, or maybe completely just give up and just lay down and die. So in that, it told me that we are just the same as this dragonfly, and that each and every one of those wings represents an element. It represents the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual body. And if all of our wings or elements are in complete calibration, we too can get to where we want to go in life without struggle, with ease and grace. And it's not about us completely having them all 100%, but they all have to be functioning on some level for us to even get there. And if one of those is not, we too are not going to attain our goals or our desires or lead us in the direction that we want to go. That's when I knew that the whole person approach, or looking at each one of these elements, the mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual, is what we needed to do to help people to move in the direction that they want to go.
Oh gosh, I love it. It's beautiful.
Yes.
And it's just like us. It's
Yes.
the same thing.
Yeah, it's what the words he said to me were, and the same is true for you. I didn't say that a minute ago, but those were the exact words, and the same is true for you.
When I see dragonflies, I know they are messengers.
Yes.
So I always, when I see them, I always think, okay, what's the message here? And for me in the past, when a dragonfly came to me, there's huge shifts that are happening.
Yes.
Yeah, good changes.
Yes. Well, if you just look at them, they're always full of different colors, and their wings are iridescent, and things are able to just flow through them. So they help us to remember to be light and free and to be curious and to, fly. And they tell us also that with the air flowing through their wings, that we got to let things go that are coming at us and just let them move through us and not get stuck in it. We can't have the resistance of what life, which is the wind to them, is throwing us or coming at our way. And there's always a time to sit in safety when it's really bad too, until it's safe to try again, right? So there's always that time as well. They teach us so many things. Mm-hmm. They also teach us that oftentimes if you think about a dragonfly, I don't know if you've ever seen a dragonfly nymph, but they're really tiny and they are not very attractive. I don't like the looks of them, me personally, but they live in the dark, murky waters. So if we think about emotions, are all water-based, dark and murky is not very light and pretty, and they live that. This is the environment they're born in. So they're living in this dark area, and they have to, survive in this environment. And there's not any time frame that a dragonfly decides that it's going to emerge out of that and into the light. There's no set time. It might be 1 year. It might be when they're 5 years old. So at some point, though, they get the nudge that they no longer want to live in that environment. They no longer want to be there. And that's when they begin their journey and they seek the light. And they travel up the reed, up through the clear waters, and they go higher and higher and higher until they emerge out of that and up into the light, where they shed that and become the dragonfly. So there's no right or wrong time for any of us to emerge from that dark space that we don't want to live in anymore. And there's nothing that says that's even wrong. There's just the moment when we decide it no longer serves us, or it's just not for us anymore, whatever the environment is that is dark, as in the energy is not helping us to thrive or to fly. And then just like the work we're doing, you and I, it's helping them to move out of that space up into where they're able to fly.
Yeah,
they teach us lots of things.
Yes, it totally reminds me of the butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the cocoon and then not even knowing that the butterfly can fly and the beauty of it.
Yes, and it's in the struggle of them breaking off that cocoon like this. It takes so long that is building their wings to fly. If somebody comes and takes their cocoon off, they cannot fly and they will die. So it's in the struggle of that restriction where we're building our spiritual muscles or our energy muscles that give us this ability to do so.
Yeah, totally true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Tell me a little bit more about how do you work with women when they're coming in and they have the really dense energy, but they are not really willing to move forward. Some people have that resistance. They
Mm-hmm.
want that shift, but they resist so much because they can see the light, but it's so scary on the other side.
Yeah. So everything in life is about baby steps. And sometimes when people are struggling like that, we don't focus on that because it's too scary or too intimidating. Remember I was talking about that subconscious mind? It's very powerful. It either works for us or it works against us or it does nothing. In this regard, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the change, the fear of what they'd have to do, whatever the fears might be, are very real and running the show. So what we would do is we wouldn't focus on that at all. We would focus on maybe doing this through hypnotherapy and doing it through metaphor. So when we talk about stories or associations through metaphor, the subconscious mind, because it doesn't know stories, it only knows feelings. So if we could, even through metaphor, give it a new feeling, or that it will be okay, we could give it just enough to feel safe enough to do so. So we basically work this way, and the mind then creates its own avenue or its own, what word would I use here? its own willpower to make the next right action, something that we wouldn't even know what to do. So we would just not focus on that. We would work on something else, and oftentimes simultaneously they would help both aspects, and then they're able to move on their own. And I also do biofeedback or muscle testing with the body. So sometimes when we're resisting something, the body will let us know of a remedy that could help them shift out of that. So if their subconscious mind, their energy body is too afraid, we work on the machine, the vessel, the body, to help it have courage to help them take that next right step, if they're open to that.
Great, yeah, and the homeopathic remedies work so great with that.
Yes.
You're using essential oils as well?
I do use some essential oils. I'm not, it's not one of my main focuses. It's usually to help somebody breathe through something, to help them, give them a little extra nudge. It wouldn't be something that would have been my, it's not a modality that I've studied enough to know how to use it medicinally. So I use it just to like an anxiety blend. If somebody's having anxiety and they're not breathing properly, or they're wanting to, walk into that interview we were talking about, I would tell them, breathe through this, do your mind exercises, do your short reframing, hypnosis meditation, and I'd say use these oils. So I fully 100% believe in them. I actually have a line I've had created for me, but I haven't studied each individual one enough to know how to use it medicinally. But those are wonderful.
Wonderful. You ready for the final question? Okay, is there one piece of advice that you can give to the audience, something that they can implement in their daily lives that will help them emotionally, physically? Yeah.
Yes. So to my mind, what's coming is the visual of that dragonfly nymph. Everybody goes through something at some time. Sometimes we are just stuck in this muck. We are stuck in this darkness and we can't see our way out. And my advice is to never settle for that as your reality. Never settle for that as your belief system or as a truth for you, because there is always a way out of everything. And if you can't see it now, just pray for the nudge to go a certain direction, or to learn something new, or go somewhere. Just follow your intuition for these nudges, because although you might be operating in this very dark environment, somewhere there is light. There's no way light is not present around us. We just have to figure out how to access it and move towards it. And so my advice would be to just not give up on that you are stuck and there's no way out. You just always say, although I don't see my way out, I'm open to allowing it to appear in front of me. So just seek for it to just show up for you, so you don't feel you are the one that has to even find it. Just follow the nudges towards whatever it is and allow it just to appear in divine time.
Great advice.
Yes.
Can you also tell the audience how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, my website, they can find me at marthareed.com, and Reed is spelled R-E-E-D, so it's MARTHAREED.com. I'm also on Facebook under Insights for Life. That is the name of my business. I provide insights for life, answers, and advice. And I would love them to follow me on Facebook or check out my website. I am locally based for people who want to see me in person. I'm in the Metro Phoenix, kind of Glendale area of Arizona. Those that are not present, I can do the majority of my services on video conferencing or over the phone as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful that you made it today and made it back from Kauai safe.
Yes. One last thing I'd like to just throw in is it's one of the gifts we're giving today. It doesn't have a lot of details on it, but it is I have an app for all of our listeners today, and it's a free app. It's both on Apple or Android, And the name of the app is Insights for Life. And you'll know it by a little sunflower that's on it. And I invite everybody to download this app. It's free. There are 4 different helpful modalities on it. One is for self-sabotage, one is for low self-esteem, one is for panic, and one is for anxiety. They're all only about 10 minutes. And if you're, you miss the recording, I'm hoping you're listening in and hearing this, because they can create powerful mind shifts that will help you just about through any situation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your beautiful work. And
thank you.
And really thank you for taking the time today and talking about the emotional and the spiritual body.
Thank you. Very grateful to be here.